guys, and this is No One Asked Her, where we speak the truth anyway. Today, I'm extremely grateful to be joined by my extraordinary guest. He's an incredibly talented director, producer, and he's the visionary behind HBO's new 7-part series, One Day in October, which is a bone-chilling and brilliant portrayal of the horrifying events that happened on October 7th. And it is an astounding piece of art that has been created to tell the stories from the unique survivors' perspectives. And I'm very grateful to be joined today by Daniel Finkelman. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Firerose. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for coming in. I know you're incredibly busy. I was just admiring the last night. I mean, could you tell me a little bit about the event and what you guys were doing there?
Wow, what a night to remember. I mean, the Simon Wiesenthal Center has their annual gala, and David Zaslav from Warner Brothers, CEO of Warner Brothers, was honored along with a few others. 2 of them were actually survivors of October 7th.
Wow.
Aya Maidan, who we have one of our episodes is actually her story.
Yeah. And
Omer a hostage who was 505 days in the tunnels in Gaza.
He was the hostage in the film. I was absolutely moved beyond. By every single episode was like a mini movie.
Exactly.
And it was really just unlike anything that I'd seen, really showing the detailed horror of the events of that day. Obviously, we all know, the devastation of what it was, but to really get the personal stories and done in such an authentic and articulate, but also very artistic way with all the, visual art that you wove into that. That was so clever because it's like sometimes words fail when it comes to portraying that level of horror. And so I was just mesmerized, really.
Thank you so much. I want to acknowledge, obviously, the director, Oded Davidoff, who is in Israel right now. He's working on another show, Tehran, for Apple TV. Mm-hmm. But he's the co-creator and director, and his vision went all the way through. Yeah. And I appreciate his work, and as well as my other producers on the show who were there last night, Chaya Omer, Lee Cooperman, and Aviv Ben Shlush.
Incredible. And so last night was like an event honoring the film, Spielberg was there.
Right, it was an event honoring, actually. The main honoree was David Zaslav.
Okay.
There was a few other honorees. Dana Bash, who has been a voice for truth on CNN. So she was honored by some of the colleagues. And Omer Shem Tov and...
So last night was an incredible night, obviously, from the photos that I just saw on Instagram. I mean, pretty much everyone was there, of importance, that really was a voice of truth when it came to the twist on the truth by the mainstream media has been nothing short of profoundly disturbing in terms of the actual proportion of people in the public eye who have been clear and steadfast to the truth since the horrifying events of that day. It's really been very disturbing because, I'd love to know sort of how you feel about that, what you see, and from your perspective, obviously as a filmmaker, you're part of that documentation of what actually happened. But is it hard to come up against so much nonsense and propaganda literally from the side of the terrorists?
It's extremely hard to fight against the gaslighting that we've been going through. And now just the mention alone of the word Israel labels you as this vile Zionist, anti-human rights personality, which I can tell you, I'm from Israel. You can hear it by my accent originally. I'm born and bred in the city of Jerusalem.
Wow.
Israelis are good people, really. Yeah. I'm not saying they're the most, they have the best manners, and sometimes they can get aggressive, but they really are good people. And if there's any country in the Middle East that actually protects human rights and cares about minorities and gives equal rights to everyone, it's Israel. especially the Arab community that lives in Israel and has members in the Knesset and so on. So to be labeled as such, and even here by people who are supposed to be inspirations, and they're saying that resistance is justified. I couldn't bear it. When I saw all this chaos that was happening out there, the numbers, the fear, the politics.
Yeah.
I decided to fight it against this with the best way that I know how to, storytelling.
That's amazing.
And actually last night the theme of last night was storytelling and preserving history through storytelling. You know, growing up, actually, my biggest hero was Simon Wiesenthal.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. Why?
I was obsessed with the movie Schindler's List. I watched it, I kid you not, and I'm going to sound very nerdy right now. 87 times.
Wow. Okay. No, that's incredible.
I love that movie.
Yeah.
And I got what Schindler's List did to me, I obviously have heard of the Holocaust. I mean, my grandparents are Holocaust survivors, but never to that extent. When I got that story right in front of my eyes, I was obsessed, and I was like, we got to find those Nazis and bring them to justice. And when I found out that there was already a man like that, Simon Wiesenthal, who despite losing his wife, his kids, everyone at war during the Holocaust, against all odds got up and decided to dedicate his life to fight anti-Semitism and to really do everything to protect the rights of not just Jews, but human beings out there. I was a fan. So collaborating with the Simon Wiesenthal Center on this project was kind of a closed circuit for me. Meeting Steven Spielberg, the director of Schindler's List, last night was even more so.
I can only imagine. I have so many questions for you, but just immediately, what was that moment like? Obviously, meeting someone that inspired you so tremendously to become a filmmaker, I'm imagining, in the first place. Was that something you always knew you were going to be? Like, as long as you can remember, was that the drive in you to create film?
You can ask my brother, Ellie. Shout out to Ellie. He's great. This is back to the days when I was still a teenager in high school. Yeah, a long time ago. And popping VHS videos into the VCR and just watching videos and making him stop midway, pausing. And he's like, what are you doing? He's like, no, I got to think about this. Over and over, age of 16, 17, 18. And I wrote my own film movie guide, giving critique on each film.
Yeah.
And I knew this is what I wanted to do. But lo and behold, life led me on a different path. I was a rabbi.
You were? That's extraordinary. You went from being a rabbi to a producer. That's such a unusual segue. How long were you practicing rabbi for?
I got news for you, Firerose. I'm still a rabbi in a sense where
that's amazing.
This is what we're trying to do, to spread the gospel of being a rabbi. Doesn't only mean, giving them the answering the questions of how do you do this or how do you do that. It's inspiring people.
Yeah, of course.
And really trying to spread the message in the best way you know how to. I was a teacher, I was a principal of a school, and I was a rabbi.
Wow.
And I decided...
Was this in Jerusalem?
No, this is in New York.
Wow. Okay.
I moved as a kid to New York, and I grew up in America. And, I went through my life journey, but I always wanted to be a filmmaker, always wanted to be a film director or a producer and really be involved in the narrative. At some point, I decided if I'm not going to do it now, it's never going to happen. And being in the world of education and being a musician as well, and I've been producing music just like yourself.
That's incredible.
Not on your level, but almost.
I'm learning so much. That's amazing. I want to definitely talk about your music as well.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Cool. Yeah.
And I decided I'm going to do it now because if not now, it's never going to happen. You got to utilize the moment and bank on it and not compromise, not on yourself and not on life. And so I jumped in and told my ex-wife, then my wife, I'm going for it. I'm quitting my job. I want to do this.
What year was this?
This was exactly 2010.
Wow. Yeah.
First, I started doing music videos, combining my love for music and movies. And it was easier, to produce and do. And I've done many music videos in the Jewish music world.
Incredible.
Most of which went viral.
Yeah.
And then slowly I got involved in some commercials and documentaries and slowly got into features. Mm-hmm. And then I remember someone asked me, like, how do you go from being a teacher of a classroom to being a filmmaker? And I said, this is teaching. Instead of teaching a class of 20 students, you're teaching hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people.
That's an incredible way of looking at film. And that's actually exactly how I think about my music. I mean, like, I'm a songwriter and an artist in that way, but I feel like that's the strongest way that I have to communicate what I'm most passionate about through the lyrics and through that music. And film is just like a much more magnified, you can do so much more, than in the 3 minutes of a song. You can literally change people's perception. And it's so powerful. And I'm really curious because you touched on the gaslighting before. I really feel like a series as powerful as what you've created, co-created, but I definitely want to give credit to your co-creators, but it's something that has the power, because it's so brilliantly done, to actually change hearts on a subject that has been skewed on a global scale. And obviously, from my perspective, it's a demonic agenda that's trying to skew the truth on Jewish people and Israel in general. I mean, Israel is not just the Holy Land, but it is where everything originally good came from. I mean, Jesus, who was a rabbi, and anyone who knows the tiniest bit actually about the history, the Judeo-Christian history, it's very, very clear that anti-Semitism is an agenda from the dark forces, which I call the enemy. And so at the same time, it's been a very, unfortunately, successful kind of propaganda machine that's been skewing the minds of so many people across the globe. I mean, I'm originally from Australia, and it's the same thing happening there as it is here in America. And I'm obviously, hopeful, because there's so many powerful, intelligent voices speaking out for the truth, but it's also deeply concerning that so many people that otherwise, I think, you would imagine, would have a moral compass, don't seem to on this particular issue. And I'd just like to know if you have any particular insights, obviously being so close to the ground, spending so much time with these incredible survivors and hearing their stories from their own mouths and then portraying that in the series. Are you able to shed some light for our viewers on what you think like might help sort of adjust that on a global scale?
Definitely storytelling. And I'm going back to that, because if there's one universal common denominator between everyone, Jews, Christians, Muslims, men, women, and all races and all colors, it's the need to be entertained and sit on your couch and open your TV and watch whatever content is out there. So content is key. Content is king. What do we have any representation there? Are we well represented on Netflix, on Hulu, on HBO? That's really the question. Dave Zaslav said last night something so incredible. He said that the real wars are not fought with soldiers, they're with storytelling. And this is how we actually spread the light, because you're not necessarily coming on the nose. And specifically, our show is not a documentary, it's scripted. So people are laid back, they want to be entertained. It's like they're watching a psychological thriller, but they're watching the truth and the narrative.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, I remember on October 7th, going on Telegram and seeing all the horrible, horrific, real videos from the kibbutzim, and then seeing people's reactions on Telegram saying it's Zionist propaganda.
Which happened almost immediately.
Immediately.
Yeah.
This is propaganda. Real videos is propaganda. You're like, okay, if real videos are propaganda, no problem. We'll give you the narrative otherwise, not a documentary. We'll bring actors, we'll script it out, we'll tell you how it is so you can actually watch and understand. When you're watching these two girls hiding in a bathroom at the Nova Music Festival, and you tell yourself, oh my God, these two girls could be my daughters, could be my sisters, can be my friends.
Yes.
Could be me.
Exactly.
And how would I react? And I say it all the time. One Day in October is not a memorial. It's a mirror.
Wow.
It's for someone to watch it and feel like he's looking in the mirror and see, do I see myself in the character? Do I see my family member there? How would I react? What would I do if I would be in that situation on the 7th or otherwise or after the 7th, like Omer Shem Tov was?
Yes. Yes. I mean, obviously the absolute wonderful miracle that just a few weeks ago, the remaining live hostages were released. It was, I think, the first true sign of everyone could just breathe out for the first time in 2 years. It was absolutely absurd that, that it wasn't just astoundingly horrifying to every single person that knew of the events of that day. But I think exactly like you just said, the fact that it hadn't been narrativized into a cinematic story before then, I think it's difficult for people perhaps to relate on a human to human level. But then when it's presented to them in a way that this could be your sister, this could be you, this could be your brother, this could be your father, it's so that's the power of film. There's very few mediums that can do that because everyone's watching content all the time. The fact that you have these characters who are real life humans, and then oh my gosh, when at the end of each episode when you show every single time I got absolute cold chills, and I'm sure everyone watching it did. It was just literally chilling when you see the actors standing there with the actual survivors, and you see how almost identical they are at sometimes rarely have I ever been just so moved by something that is at the very end of a story like that, and each time it was just really powerful. What made you decide to do that and to show the audience that?
Sure. I mean, there are some movies and TV shows that speak truth and are based on true stories that happened in the past. But over here, we weren't just doing something where we're looking back at history. We were literally living in it, because we shot this during a war, while the war was happening, obviously, about the war. Yeah. And it was still raw. This is not just a Holocaust movie, which is so super important decades later, and seeing the survivor at the end, much older, and understanding that this is a story about her life. I think the fact that when you look at the characters at the end, you're like, oh my God, this just happened a year ago, 2 years ago. Yeah. They look alike. Yes. This is real. This actually happened. This is not 30 years later. We're like, maybe it was distorted a bit and over dramatized. No, this has happened. Actually, we're emphasizing on sticking to details to be as accurate as possible. Yeah.
Is that why you had them on the set?
Exactly.
That was an incredible choice to actually, was there any ever a moment in production where one of the survivors would chime in and sort of say, actually, can you change that?
All the time.
Really? Wow.
All the time.
Wow.
At some point, I'll give you an example. We had Aya Meidan, who was there with us last night.
Remind me which story.
So Aya Meidan, she's from the Trust episode. She was from Kibbutz Be'eri, a mother of 3, who was hiding with a Bedouin and was saved by a Bedouin family.
Yeah, the cyclist.
Exactly, the cyclist. And we shot this episode literally exactly where it happened, outside of our kibbutz, which is just a few miles from the Gaza border. And while we're shooting it, we have actors portrayed as Hamas on a truck that obviously is exactly, everything looks exactly alike. she almost had a heart attack. She's like, I'm feeling like this is exactly, I'm in the moment here, and this is a recap. I can't breathe right now.
PTSD would be insane. Yeah.
I mean, we have psychologists on set, and just to make sure that everyone is okay. But she made sure, as an example, to tell us, no, the shoes that I was wearing and the character is wearing now were a bit different. I tie my shoes this way, not that way.
Wow. It was that precise.
Absolutely.
Wow. Yeah. But you felt that. As you're watching these stories, you know how authentic and the attention to detail was just like so evident in every single shot.
Yeah.
And then even when you brought in the visual artistic element, like how did you sort of think of that to sort of tell in, like, for instance, that episode with the 2 girls at the Nova Festival, like, because obviously, you know, every single time you hear a noise, especially, you know, some of the like terrifying noises, I feel like you're just like holding your breath, like it's you in there with them. It's you're experiencing what it must be like in this tiny confined space. And you don't know at what point this might be the last breath that you take. And you're, you know, essentially your sister, I mean, that close, like, is there with you, and they even find time to laugh. Like there's even moments where they can find the joy, which is, I think, a profoundly Jewish thing. I think like finding the light in the darkest of places is something so fundamental to the Jewish people in general. I think that's something that, you know, since the beginning of time has always been the case, and it's as evident today as ever, because I don't think many stories being told that are that terrifying would also have moments of lightness and humor.
I appreciate you saying that very much, because I remember after October 7th, roaming the streets of Tel Aviv. So obviously we have a full war happening. Most of the men are drafted to the IDF, fighting this justified war because we have no choice. We're defending our families, our kids. And yet people are smiling. People are happy.
Yeah.
And back to the 2 girls at that episode, I remember the first meeting that myself and Oded had with them, and one of them told us that she took some acid, which that's what happens, you know, to go music festivals, people take drugs, right?
That's half the point of going to a festival. Yeah.
Now, to be honest, back in the day, I took a bit of psychedelics or whatnot, and I know the experience. So I asked her, how in God's name do you stay 9 hours at this little small bathroom with Hamas shooting at you, and you hear everything that's happening, the killing, the rape, and you're not going absolutely bonkers? And she said exactly that. She was like, I got into a state of mind of a happy place. And I started laughing, and I'm like, so you laugh, but they would hear you. We were laughing on mute. I'm like, I never heard of that. Laughing on mute for like 2 minutes. And we tried to portray that. And the artist, Pil Peled, who's one of the biggest artists in Israel, has created this amazing original animation, kind of like giving us a bit of what it feels to be in that psychedelic trip of one of the perspectives of those girls. And Lael, the incredible cinematographer that we had, also, you know, obviously exemplified that as well. So, yeah. It
was absolutely astounding. And I mean, to have an entire episode, and like I said, it really was like a movie from in such a confined space, and yet the amount of emotion that you conveyed in that was just unlike anything I'd really ever seen cinematically. And of course, I mean, each single episode had that level of power behind it. I mean, I sort of have, you know, I'm almost like haunted, but in a good way, by these scenes that, you know, I think of the ambulance driver and how he just, it was almost without question, it was a given that he was going to do this unbelievably heroic thing. And it was like his life wasn't even a sort of a thought. And I think just that level of heroism, which of course every single member of the IDF has to, I mean, obviously, you know, it's mandatory and that's extraordinary in itself, but every single person who lives in Israel at the age of 18 has to fight for their country, because it's still to this day, unfortunately, under
being threatened.
Being threatened. And so do you feel like that level of heroism is sort of ingrained in Israeli culture, or like is it, because from an American perspective, it's sort of like, what? I mean, I won't go on about that, but it's a very different, way of.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I think that most Israelis are heroes in essence.
Yeah.
They don't ask questions. They just go, and it's not in their nature to fight for no reason. They don't. They really don't. They're not bullies. They're not. Unlike what some of the media has portrayed Israelis, we're not bullies. But here's what we are. We're no longer those weak Jews in Europe being paraded to concentration camps and gas chambers. And some of the people outside there, they don't like to see that side of the Jews. For them, a Jew means this neurotic little, bold little man who's Jewish, who's going to tell us, who's going to be a survivor or a descendant of a survivor. But no, there's a whole breed of Jews out there in Israel who are machos, who are their own version of Superman. They're super nice and they're heroic and they're going to do everything to protect their family. Mm-hmm. But if you mess with them, they're going to eliminate you. And we have no choice, because we take that threat of when we're being threatened that we're going to be killed, for a change, we're taking that seriously.
Of course. I mean, and of course, and on a global scale, I mean, every country that is a democracy, that is fighting for freedom and the values of, modern society in the West as we know it, would do the same. It's just a very disproportionate how somehow Israel is judged up against this impossible standard. I mean, the actual statistics of, how many civilian deaths compared to any type of war, which obviously wasn't started by Israel. Like, I mean, it's when you look at the facts, it's unimaginable that anyone could see that and not see that Israel would defend itself. And even so, they are doing so with such integrity that is not even required of them, but that's who they are. So, for instance, like if America, the proportionate amount of 40,000 people were killed and 14,000 were taken captive, of what would be the proportionate response from America? I don't think anybody would say that was excessive force, but I think that it's far beyond that. It doesn't make logical sense. That's where the root of this ancient hatred comes from, because it doesn't. If you look at it logically, it doesn't make any sense. And these are people who are otherwise, intelligent beings believing this absolute nonsense because it's sort of demonizing this one tiny minority of the world. I mean,
and if you ask literally almost any Arab Israeli living in Israel, living in the West Bank.
Yeah.
The quote-unquote, what they call occupied West Bank, okay? So let's just call it whatever it's fine. They live in the West Bank. You ask them, would you rather live under Hamas rule? Of course they're going to say no. Why would they want to do that? Under Sharia law, where people are being executed on the streets. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, I remember during the war, I was just outside of Columbia University in the city, New York City, where I live. And there was a protest. And I was standing there. This was pretty much in the beginning. Mm-hmm. And there were hundreds of them yelling, "Free Palestine." And I just got up. And I was alone. And I was telling everybody, "Excuse me, do you know there are female hostages there now?" Within seconds, I was almost killed. They were punching me and kicking me and yelling and threatening. And I was like, there are female hostages, never mind male hostages. Mm-hmm. Okay, whatever you want to call them, IDF. Female hostages there now. But they don't want to hear the truth.
They don't.
They don't. And that's why we have this show, because when we say never, people say never again, never again. The way to actually make that a reality is by storytelling, by media. That's how we bring this memory alive.
Yeah, absolutely. And thinking about, I mean, like you mentioned Schindler's List, the sensationally great films that have, like you said, mirrored the truth of a situation as horrific as the Holocaust and now of October 7th are essential, because moving forward, history will either remember it as it was with art that, you're a huge part of creating and bringing into the world. Thank you. Or it will only be memorized by the generalized sort of delusion of the world, which was somehow immediately, I just remember days after October 7th, the mainstream media was already narrativizing Israel as somehow the oppressor and the perpetrator, which is literally insane. And when you said you were making, these incredible mini films, and the hostages weren't yet released. When you were shooting is it Omer?
Omer Shem Tov, yeah.
Omer Shem Tov, and you were shooting that episode, and what was it like, and what was the the actors playing the terrorists? I'm so fascinated. How did you do it all?
And this is part of the paradox, because the actors that played the terrorists and the actors that played the Bedouins and all of them, they're exactly what I said. The Arab Israelis who live in Israel.
Wow, all of them are Arab Israelis.
They're all Arab Israelis who are Arabs. And some of them actually excused themselves and went to pray, literally on set. And here they are. Can you imagine the other way around? A film being shot in Gaza and Israelis working as actors, we wouldn't come out of there alive.
Apart from Pallywood,
right?
There's nothing coming out of that, and that's pure propaganda.
Exactly.
Yes.
And to shoot this episode was so intense because Omer's parents came on set.
Wow.
And this is the first time, they heard the stories from Omer, but this is the first time they actually got to visualize everything, and they see this long tunnel that we built for the show, for the set, with these actors portrayed as Hamas, and the actor that plays their son actually looks a lot like him.
Yes.
And they're yelling at the actor, they're yelling at Omer on set. The mom couldn't take it. But Omer is strong. I'm so inspired by Omer Shem Tov. He's amazing.
He was there last night?
He was there last night.
Yeah.
You ask him any time, he says, what got me through it is my conversation with God. Here's another Spielberg movie.
Yes.
Is it a Spielberg movie? Castaway. It's Bob Zemeckis.
Oh, yeah.
And Castaway, where Tom Hanks,
incredible,
right,
absolutely,
has a relationship with the volleyball. They called him Wilson, and he speaks to him, and he became so friendly with him that when he separated, he was crying for 3 days. He couldn't breathe.
Yes.
Omer Shem Tov developed a relationship with God in captivity. And every day he started talking to him, but not like as a prayer, but like you talk to a friend, and asking him, hello, God, how are you today? How was your day?
Wow.
And thanking him dozens of times a day for everything. And he had nothing. He was in the dark. He got maybe a half a biscuit or a half a pita a day. He had asthma, so he couldn't breathe well. Mm-hmm. And he has asthma. But he was thanking him, now he can breathe. Thank you for the breath. And he called him Abba, Dad. Thank you, Abba. Abba, thank you for the cookie. And later on, they moved him together, and he was there with 9 Hamas members in one room. And they basically made him cook for them and clean for them and do everything for them. And while he's washing the dishes, he's talking to himself like a schizophrenic. If you look from the side, he's like, Abba, thank you, Abba. Abba, thank you. I appreciate that I have the opportunity to do this right now, and they're not beating me up. Thank you. Like thanking and thanking and thanking. And then all the way at the end, there's a video out there, if you can look it up on YouTube, when he was released, and his parents and family members and everybody jumps on him. He is completely oblivious. His eyes are rolled up, and he looks up and he's yelling, Abba, thank you, Abba, thank you.
Wow.
And you could feel that relationship.
Yeah.
I don't think I met another person recently as close to God as Omer Shem Tov is. And
That's so beautiful.
Today is his birthday.
It is.
First birthday out
Happy
of captivity.
Happy birthday, Omer. Oh my gosh, that's incredible.
Yes.
What day was he released?
He was released, I think, back in July. I may be mistaken, but around that time.
That's extraordinary. How old is he today?
He's now in his late 20s.
Wow.
And
when
crazy.
You're telling this story, it's firstly, it's just like there's no words. To build a relationship that closely to God it's the same, it's the light in the darkness that we were talking about. I personally had a complete revelation when I was 28 years old and I was in an LA County jail cell. I was a hopeless drug addict. My life had been, just decimated by my crippling addiction. And I really thought that was it for me. And I was, just in as bad a place as you could be. And it was from that jail cell that I was there for 2 months. And I started that same relationship, obviously, with not even a fraction of the amount of torture and oppression, but suddenly the isolation and the despair. And it was through that direct line straight to the divine, which is God, I knew that my life wasn't over. And in fact, it was actually just the very beginning, because his love and his power is indescribable. It is real. It is the only real thing. And so the fact that the way that you told that story, once again, storytelling, the power of that. But I feel like if you would just speak a little on your own relationship with God and how important that is to you in your life, and also maybe how that came about. Was it something that you were born with, or something that you found, in a dark moment or even in a light moment, and how has it developed over the years?
A great question. And before I answer that, I'll tell you another tidbit that Omer was saying you had mentioned a jail cell. He said that while in captivity for 505 days, and hence the name of the episode is 505, it looks like SOS.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And
so cool.
He's there. And at some point, Hamas are bringing back a bunch of Hebrew books that they found on the street that IDF was there, and they thought it's something that has to do with war tactics. And he dismisses it, but he is asking for one small booklet that was in it to keep, and they refuse, but he's like, please, I'll do anything, I'll clean, I'll cook for you, and they allow it. And that booklet was teachings from Rabbi Schneerson, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, which was a great leader of the Hasidic movement. Wow. And he was quoted a story of the Bible of Joseph in the jail, and he's reading it. What a divine providence that that's what he got to have during his captivity. Yeah. Joseph is in his jail cell, and he got not only released, but he became the viceroy of Egypt. And that gave him strength to know that not only am I going to be released, I'm going to get out of there. Lo and behold, in a few months from now, I'm going to be speaking in front of Steven Spielberg and Hollywood elite, and they're all going to give me a standing ovation.
That's my God.
And you know what his dream is?
Yeah.
To win the Oscar as an actor.
Wow. Oh, yes, of course. I remember that from the episode that he's telling the terrorist, I'm going to be an actor. I want to be an actor. I'm a waiter now. Wow. And, so that's obviously completely true. Yeah.
For me, that's godliness. You know why? Because we know the famous biblical story where Moses approached God and he said, you speak to me all the time. Can I see who you are? Who are you? How do you look like? And God told him, you cannot see my front, you cannot see my face, but the back of me you can see. As we say it in ancient Hebrew, v'etachorai, panai lo irau et achorai. And he showed him the back of his face, the back of his head. What does that mean? Does God have a face? Does God have a back? You know how many times I found myself in a situation where I have no idea why I'm meeting someone, why I go into a certain nightclub. Or it could be anything from a random restaurant in the city to meeting you here in LA. You never know of any. I don't know why I'm doing any of that. Yeah. But every time I go and I see myself backwards and I retrospect, I'm like, oh my God, now I understand why I specifically met this person so I can meet this person. And now I'm here. And that's what God was saying. You want to see me? You want to understand me?
Wow.
You can only see me backwards. You can only understand me retrospectively.
That's so insightful and incredible. And that's exactly, I feel like that's the experience, definitely my experience of everyone who is on this path walking with God, because he'll only reveal to you after the fact. And often, some of my prayers probably sound like, oh, why is this happening right now? But without fail, he will always, nothing is wasted. And that's, in the Bible too. It's literally that every weapon formed against you shall not only not prosper, but he will use it for your good. And that's the God I know. I mean, like experientially, that's the God that has had his hand on my entire life. And by every odd, I shouldn't be here. There's no logical explanation at all. I mean, I should absolutely be dead, many times over. And that's an episode for another time. But I am so profoundly grateful every single time I get to hear a story that other people who are on their own journeys filled with miracles. He's the same God as he was in the time of Moses, in the time of Joseph, in the time of Jesus. He is, and always will be. He is obviously omnipotent and sovereign and, eternal. But I just think it's so important that we talk about the miracles of today. And I'm so interested, like, did you always have that connection with God? Did you always know that he was a presence in your life?
I always knew that God was a presence and God is real. Never had doubts on God, ever.
Amazing.
Not always was I connected to him consciously, but I could tell you, I mean, shortly, I could just summarize and tell you that when I was about 7 years old, I was practically blind. I had a very rare eye disease that...
You did not come across as someone who is even the tiniest bit visually impaired. Is that for real?
It was crazy.
Whoa.
I had an eye allergy to the sun, and which just grew worse. And I went to different doctors and rabbis and alternative medicine and you name it. We tried everything and nothing worked. I was living in Jerusalem at the time. So my father was working as a doctor in the Jerusalem hospital of Shaarei Tzedek, and we tried everything. Nothing worked. And when I was about 11, we moved to the States. And I had the privilege, the honor, and the merit to meet the Rebbe that I told you about before, the Lubavitcher Rebbe. And I remember going by him, and I have a video of it that I can share with you. And I looked at his eyes, and I'm sorry, I know I sound a little bit too dramatic. But
there's no such thing here. We only talk truth.
It's the truth.
Yeah.
His eyes were piercing. Yeah. And they looked through my spine. And he said, in everything, 3 times that you do, you should have success. After 4 years of doctors giving up on my eyesight and pain that I had on my eyes, within a month, everything went away. But it's more than that.
Yeah.
I feel that blessing is also not just my physical eyes, my spiritual eyes, and just as much into what I do for a living, the visual arts.
Yeah.
Everything that has to do with visual, I feel that blessing with me, and I feel that godliness with me. Yes, not always do you feel God, like we said, right away, and sometimes you say, why? But if there's one common denominator with all the hostages, all of them, and not just hostages, most of the people who were at the Nova Music Festival and survivors, who before October 7th were extreme left, not just left, they believed in peace and love and just give them everything, give them the whole land, suddenly understood how God was, even though, on the contrary, supposedly, look what happened, look how many people are killed and murdered. But they understand the strength of having God in their lives. And so do I.
Wow.
I do.
Yeah, that's extraordinary. So every single hostage that you worked with, that you got these stories and made them into forever art, you're saying that they each had a spiritual awakening within themselves during this experience. Isn't that just so astounding? Because obviously, it's like the horror, the unimaginable horror of certain events in anyone's life is so extreme and so excruciating and so painful. And yet, even through that, God is so good that he uses that to awaken and then transform and shape us into the versions of ourselves that we need to be. You are now the extraordinary filmmaker that he knew that you were only going to necessarily be if you had those years of having your vision impaired, which is, obviously like counterintuitive from a logical perspective, but I feel like from a divine perspective, it makes perfect sense. Just like, now I'm extremely grateful to be coming up in May to 10 years of sobriety, which is an absolute miracle. I mean, thank you so much. But that's not me. That's God. I mean, honestly, every single day, the only thing that I've done is hand over my will to him and just know that his plan, even when I'm absolutely unable to see the next step in front of me, his plan is that, the next step will be lit just when I need to step onto it. And that's how he's guided me. And the fact that I'm sitting here with you, so gratefully still breathing and sober, it's proof of, his existence. And I feel like, if every story that you tell, I'm sure has that core in it. And I'm so interested, your next film is like a Ukraine-based. What's that film about?
Right. So I have a couple of films coming up. The Ukrainian film was similar in a sense where it was also shot in Ukraine, and it's a story about the war, and we were shooting it during the war.
This is a recurring thing. Like, is there ever any fear at all of going into a war zone? And
for me?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's my addiction. I'm an adrenaline junkie.
That's a certain type of adrenaline. I mean, that's the real deal. Yeah, wow.
Yeah. But there's always a fear, but, I'm really happy that we did that. And actually, yesterday was the premiere of that movie.
That's
in Ukraine,
amazing.
In Kiev.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And we were just told that it was nominated for Best Picture and Best Actress in Ukraine as well.
Yeah.
So I'm really proud of that movie. It's called Our House is on Fire. And they have another film, which is also similar in topic with Jeremy Piven.
Okay.
Called The Performance.
This is another of your films?
Another one of my films, which I'm so proud of.
Yeah. What's that one about?
And this film is the story is written by Arthur Miller. Mm-hmm. The one that wrote, obviously, Death of a Salesman, and so on and so forth. And the story takes place in 1937, New York. Mm-hmm. This Jewish tap dancer who hides his identity because he doesn't want to come across Jewish, with his troupe get invited to do one performance in Berlin. Mm-hmm. Nazi-occupied Berlin. The war obviously hasn't begun yet. And he's so successful there, he gets to live the dream he always wanted, to be a successful tap dancer. But then slowly his truth is coming out, and he has to make that critical decision between his identity and his career, something that is so relatable right now. Because you know what? On October 7th, how many of our colleagues and peers right here in this city of LA and otherwise were silent?
Worse than silent, Daniel. Worse than silent. They were actively outspoken, promoting the terrorist agenda.
Exactly. And those who didn't were silent. And this is kind of, and this is what I said before, it's like a mirror. And this movie I'm really proud of. It's starring Jeremy Piven, that's his life work. Wow. His sister Shira Piven directed. That's
incredible. And is this what stage of production is this one?
This is completely done. It's about to hit the theaters top of next year. And guess what? Incredible. While coming here, Firerose, I'm not going to say where we are because I know we're on. But I was downstairs and looking at the distributor has an office in your building.
No way!
So
that's
after
incredible.
I'm going down to say hi.
I love that.
And I'll introduce you to him.
Please.
Yeah, so they're distributing our movie.
That's extraordinary. So isn't that just like, God has a sense of humor as well.
God, totally.
I mean, what's even the chances? How many buildings are in the city?
Exactly.
Yes.
And I had no idea.
Wow. I love that so much. I mean, when do you have time to relax, or are you so devoted to creating these masterpieces that, I mean, how do you have a work-life balance? When do you have time for you?
I mean, my time, my leisure is obviously to see the feedback of people. I know it sounds cliched right now, but to get people's feedback like we did last night and otherwise, this is what gives me strength. Obviously, we all like to get a vacation sometimes and sit on the sun. It's great. I'm also a father of 5 kids, by the way.
You're the father of 5 children?
Yes. I'm giving you a lot of information
goodness.
Here, so.
Okay. This is like, you're an incredibly impressive human, Daniel. That is extraordinary.
Thank you.
What ages?
So my youngest is 9.
Wow.
My oldest is 22. and I'm really proud of them, and and they give me they give me happiness, they give me comfort.
Yeah.
And so what gives me leisure? Good music. I'm into music. In fact, by the way, we have a theme song that we just released for the show.
Is that the song that plays
on the trailer?
Yes. Okay.
It's beautiful.
Chills. Absolutely.
It's
gorgeous.
called Amber Skies.
Yeah. Who
performed
wrote that?
by Yuval Raphael. Yuval Raphael, who is performing, she was a Nova survivor.
Wow.
Hiding under the bodies of her friends for hours.
I've heard this story.
Yes,
I didn't know her name.
She always knew she knows how to sing, but never really did anything with it. But after October 7th, she decided, like many others, to set her priorities different and not compromise on her life and do what she wants to do.
So beautiful.
She got into a singing competition, won first place, and this year she was Israel's representative for Eurovision and won second place.
How I know it, and when she was performing, she was getting booed, and she was such an absolute hero, and she just stood there like a
second place. So
wow.
this is her second. The first song was a Eurovision song. Second song is our song, Amber Skies.
That is so powerful.
Maybe you could play it soon for your listeners. Yeah. And you asked who wrote it. She's sitting right here.
What? Yeah. you guys are blowing my mind. That's incredible. You're a songwriter and an incredibly talented songwriter. Okay, we need to talk after this because that's absolutely amazing. I mean, it is such a beautiful song.
Isabella Brodie.
Wow.
Yeah, because if they don't see
Isabella Brodie. I'm going to have links to both of you.
Thank you.
Of course, I'm very excited. We're definitely going to talk. Wow, it's such a powerful song. And so Isabella wrote it for. Sorry, remind me her name.
Yuval
Raphael, and she released it as part of the HBO series.
Exactly.
Wow.
Officially the soundtrack, the theme song of the HBO series.
Was that her first single that she ever?
Since Eurovision.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
The first one is.
Was it New Day? Right.
Yeah, New Day Will Arise, which is a beautiful song.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now this, Amber Skies.
That is incredible. And so you mentioned that music is in your bones as well. What, in what respect? What do you play, or how do you?
So again, this is more for my shelf, for my drawer rather, not shelf, for my drawer. But I've done a lot of music production out there. I've been involved in the Jewish music world with some of the greats, like Gad Elbaz, which I would love for you to have him on as well.
Yeah.
An incredible human.
I'd love to.
And who's very much liked, by the way, out of the echo chamber. Gad Elbaz, Nissim Black.
Nissim Black.
You know
I
Nissim
love
Black.
him, yeah.
So I've worked with him,
so
and I've worked with a lot of,
Wow.
Israeli and otherwise Jewish music artists.
Yeah, and in
writing,
the production.
composing, production,
Wow.
music videos, producing the music. So I just, music is my DNA.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's why when you invite him, like, I heard your music. You have beautiful songs, beautiful music. And
thank you so much.
And it's more than that. When you sing, you could see your soul. And it really spoke to me.
Thank you so much. That means everything coming from you. That it's my artistic expression in the world to try and get some of what's going on inside out there into the world, with the hopes that, it will reach others' souls and that it will ignite something within them to be their most authentic self. And thank you so much for saying that. I'm really just astounded by the breadth of achievement that you've had, and you're still a young man. I mean, what drives you? What's your next goal? I mean, you've got all of these films, you've got your family, you've got your the musical component of your art. Do you have any kind of goals that you see in the next?
My goals are to continue spreading God's name in the world through storytelling, and not do it in a preachy way, not do it in a cheesy way, not do it in a cliched way, not do it in a way, because as a father of 5 kids, most of them are soon to be or already are teenagers. And this is it. We got to have, as I said, representation on social media and really speak to them. We could, it's not enough for me to quote verses from the Bible and say, believe in God. You want them to really feel the light You got to be a living example and a sample of light.
Yeah.
And the way for them to see it is through storytelling. It's through something that they feel related to, which is entertainment.
Yes. Yes.
So I see whatever else is happening there, and it's okay. I don't judge. Listen. I watch some of that content myself, but stuff that really make you cry, that make you laugh, that really brings out emotions from you. That's the kind of stuff that I want to continue creating.
Yeah.
And thankfully, I have such incredible partners with this show. Fernando, the CEO of Fox Entertainment. Fox Entertainment became our worldwide distribution arm for this show, as well as hence the Simon Wiesenthal Center with their arm. It's a newly foundation that they have for media called Moriah Media. And they've done documentaries.
Yeah, I saw that on the red carpet.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's incredible.
They are so beyond, and they came on board together with Jim Burke, the president of Simon Wiesenthal. My goal is to continue creating content with them and others and really touch people's hearts and lives for real.
That's so beautiful. Do you think that the power of storytelling is enough that over the next few years that we as creators can really focus in on getting the truth and through those narratives of light and hope and faith and courage and all of those incredibly beautiful things? Do you think that we can actually make a difference in terms of the trajectory of the general mind of the world on subjects like Israel, on subjects like,
I think so, because as any film director can tell you, what makes someone a good actor? It's not the accent, and it's not even about memorizing lines. It's about the actor actually feeling the character. It's actually being in character, actually being that person.
Yeah.
And that comes across no matter what you say. You're like, you feel that energy from that actor.
Yeah.
I think it's the same way for creators. If we are genuine, and if we really instill in our music, in our storytelling, and whatever we do in our writing, that we're our truth and we're genuine about it. We're not doing it just to be because it's sexy or because it's the right thing to do business-wise. If we are real and we're putting everything on our sleeves, people would feel it and grab onto it because people relate to that kind of energy.
Yes.
So the answer is yes.
That's so incredibly beautifully said. And I completely agree in that I'm an eternal optimist and I have that faith. Even it's not the majority of what I'm seeing right now, but I have ultimate hope and knowledge of who God is and how he works through each awakened individual and how that spores on, that's not the right word, but like each seed that's planted and then grown within each soul then has the possibility of exponentially expanding that sort of spiritual awakening. And every soul that's essentially like saved from the darkness, for lack of a better way to put it, who's not, going into atheism and despair and, nihilism and nothing means anything and is going in the opposite direction of everything means something and everything happens
so
for a reason.
True.
And every tiny minute detail of your life, no matter how disturbing, was let happen by a ultimately all-loving God that knows you better than you know yourself, and it's all going to work out. And it's, that's what I believe. That's what I've always believed in when life hasn't reflected that. And now, thank God, I'm in a place where it's definitely, I feel like it's just the very beginning. And I'm not sure if you can relate to that, but it's like no matter how much you accomplish in this world, it feels like when you're coming from that place, it feels like every new day is a gift. And you're so excited to get to create the next thing and make, a difference, hopefully, in the next person's life so that they might get to experience that connection.
I relate to what you said so much because I truly believe, when you walk into a dark room and you want to take away that darkness out, you take a baseball bat and you kick out that darkness, it's not going to help.
Yeah.
No matter how hard you'll show, it's just not. But if you take a little tiny match, excuse the cliche, and light it up, what we say is a little light kicks out a lot of darkness.
Yes.
So my message to creators and to myself, I'm talking to myself right now, like Omer Shem Tov, and I'm saying, don't think like, oh, who's going to watch it? Who's going to read it? Who's going to listen to it? Just what? One person to... A little light kicks out a lot of darkness. Keep on doing what you're doing because someone out there is going to grab onto it and that can change that person's life and you could be part of that.
So well said. A little light illuminates a lot of darkness. That is an incredible place. And yeah, it is. It's spiritual law as well. I mean, if you go into a dark room and you turn on that light, and no matter how much darkness, no matter how big that room, that the darkness is going to go. So every time that you're creating one of these, even if it's as simple as a conversation, sometimes that's enough to change the trajectory of a whole soul's life. Because it's like, I think of things very visually too, and I always sort of imagine like, the multicolored, like endless colors of God, and like there is no limit to what he can do. And so, even if someone's world is entirely gray or dark and they can't see that light, it might just take illuminating one tiny pixel, and then they believe, wait a minute, if this pixel is this beautiful shade of yellow, and then they see this pixel and it's pink, and then the blue, and then it's like it can't. Actually, I'm like, where am I getting this visual from? But it's, as someone who at one point was struggling to see, and then God transformed your ability to see, and you saw in vivid color. Like, is that something that you can relate to?
So much.
Yeah.
There's a prayer that we say, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, which means God is one. Mm-hmm. Listen, Israel, God is our King, God is one. Or God is our Lord, rather. What does that mean, God is one? Obviously, God is one. What does that mean, God is one? Means that when I look around me, there's nothing bad that can happen, because if I'm getting angry at a situation, then God is not one. There is God and there's this situation. But if God is good, and if God is everywhere, that everything is part of God, mm-hmm. even those situations that don't actually are accommodating me at this moment because I don't see them yet. So my message is, yes, let's be cohesive, let's mm-hmm. unite, let's feel that godliness and remember that God is in us mm-hmm. more than anything.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And thank you, Firerose, for inviting me. I didn't know what to expect, but this has been inspiring and illuminating for me.
That means more than I can possibly explain. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing so much of your heart and soul with our viewers. Like, thank you for taking the time and for just being your beautiful, artistic, authentic self. And I'm so grateful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.